And one. Well, hey, Dave Malone here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. You know how I always start with a question. Well, I am going to start with a statement, and then you get to decide if this statement aligns with your world today or not. Because I know it's near and dear to my heart, so I'm super excited to unpack this today. And it's kind of an emotional question, which I think usually gets a much better response. And the statement is, I don't know how to keep up. And in today's world, man, there's so many things flying so fast, and there's things you miss and forget. And did I do this? And did I call that person back? Especially if you're in sales or you own your own business. So I found the guy that asked that question, made that statement, and I'm honored to be hanging out with Sean Malone. How are you today, my friend?
Mr. Dave, first of all, I'm fully honored and just so much gratitude to you for having me on your show. I watched several episodes. I'm a subscriber. Man, what you do is awesome. And the one thing that I will share is like there's so much negativity in the world. You bring this positive spin on things, and I'm like truly grateful for it. So thank you for letting me be here today. Honored to add a little value to some people's
Yeah,
lives. Let's
no
go.
worries. Absolutely. I totally know that negative polarity would not have been a good company name for us.
Yeah, no,
So
that would
we
have.
decided on positive polarity, which is awesome. But you're co-founder at a company called flowchat.com. So why
Yeah,
don't you fill us in, first of all, on what flowchat.com is, and then we'll get into how that's going to fix the hassle for people that don't know how to keep up. So fill
yeah.
us in on
So
what's going on over there.
I appreciate it. So yeah, like you said, I have been through burnout a number of times. So anyone listening to this that's gone through burnout, like this is gonna be a great episode for you. So just pay attention, have your notepad ready to go. But FlowChat is the amalgamation of like 28 years of my career professionally at this point, and it's my eighth company that I've actually founded and grew. It's my second software product. So I've been in the game for a little while, and I've been through a lot of ups and way more downs. Like I think most people could say if they've been through kind of that entrepreneurial journey. And so FlowChat is basically the bridge between human authenticity and machine intelligence. Okay. Because as we all know, AI is like coming and it's coming very quickly. And right now, there's kind of like two groups of people in AI that I see, right? So, kind of being a thought leader in the space of DM and AI. Um, Let me just back up. FlowChat is a system that helps people find, connect, and close deals through personal DMs. It's the bridge between human authenticity and machine intelligence. And the focus is with these two groups of people. So you got a lot of people right now that are like AI. Oh my God, this is awesome. I want to put it in my business and use it everywhere that I can.
Sure.
And then
Yep.
you have these super duper like critical safety engineers and super deep thinkers about AI, people that are working in like with Sam Altman and some of these people way at the top. I've met a number of them and I asked them a lot of questions. And they think like, oh my gosh, like if artificial general intelligence really becomes a thing, like AI could be pretty detrimental to a lot of stuff, right? And so I think like it's very good to use as much AI as we can, but we don't ever want to lose personal touch, and we
Sure.
still want to have the ability to not get overwhelmed because you can't keep up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I tell you, those three words I think are really powerful words because I think, Sean, a lot of people listening right now, they're probably good at one of those two, maybe two of those three. When you said find, connect, and close, there's a lot of good hunters out there that can find, opportunities, but maybe they struggle with connecting with that person, and then
Mm.
they struggle even more with closing that particular opportunity. Conversely, there might be people that struggle with they can't find good opportunities, but once they do, they're great at the connection. So, are all three of those, just as a way of kind of introduction, are all three of those really key for a growing, you grew a bunch of companies, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But in that growth, I gotta believe finding, connecting, and closing are really strong requirements for
All right.
successful business.
Every conversation is a sales conversation, isn't it? Right. And so if we all agree that every sales conversation is, or every conversation is a sales conversation, then finding, connecting, and closing deals with people that are the right people, right? You can take some skills like you have. I know you're very well versed in a lot of selling systems, as am I. And you can take a lot of the psychological NLP tactics, strategy, and you can use it for evil. But as I always say, never for evil, always for good. And so we only want to sell to the right people. And so as a
Sure.
sales professional, we got to be able to like zip it when we're talking to the wrong person. And I think a lot of people miss that. But coming back to your point, finding there's a lot of ways to find people, right? You can do things like, well, I mean, I run a webinar that talks about it. Like you have outbound traffic where you're going out and finding, building lists, starting connection and going down that path. Or you have inbound traffic where it still starts with you. You create something and put it in the world, whether it be a website, a challenge, a lead magnet, a paid ad, or whatever it is. You put that piece of content in the world, people raise their hand and start swimming inbound towards you. That's a different conversation. And right. So
Sure.
a lot of different ways to find people. You just got to kind of find the pathway that works the best for you. And I've gone down all of the pathways that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And I know some to be way more effective and efficient than all the other ones. And then I know other ones where people are like, oh, that's a shiny object. I'm going to go try it. And then
Yeah.
they flop. Right. And so
Sure.
finding is one thing. Connecting is another big piece, right? Connecting is this idea of breaking the ice, getting engagement. That's all we have to do, right?
Sure.
And then once
Yeah.
we've connected, then it's like, what's the transition of that conversation into the close part of that conversation? How does that work? And so some people like you and I have spent a lot of time focusing on that, and that's been the bread and butter of what's helped be the engine to grow most all of our companies. And so, for
Sure.
anyone that hasn't studied selling systems, I would encourage you highly hire Dave, number one, or go find a selling system that really makes a lot of sense so that you can actually have a system. Because if you don't have a system, you know the story, right? You get
Yep.
stuck in the prospect
Yep.
system, which is lie,
Absolutely.
steal, lie, hide. They lie to you first, they steal your information second, they lie to you again, and then you can't find them. Like that's the system, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I tell you what, I love that outbound versus inbound piece before you jump into
Yeah.
the next piece. Outbound, I have to admit, the older I get, the lazier I get in the sales world, thinking that, man, I spent my whole career looking for outbound. I'm naturally a hunter looking for that next opportunity. But as I get older, I'm like, man, where the heck can I find these inbound? Where can I find these opportunities where people are looking for me and they come and find me and call me and so I'm transitioning into that. And I'm just curious, does your flowchat.com, does that work for both the outbound as well as the inbound? To kind of fill me in or fill us in
Yeah,
on
for
how
sure.
that works.
Dave, great question. So FlowChat is an all-encompassing system. It's the only one of its kind that's built the way that it's built. It's built by a salesperson's brain, not a marketing person's brain. So I want to be very distinct on
Sure.
that. A marketing person who built a software in the realm of what flowchat.com is going to build one that you can go find right now. There's a bunch of them, right? You can go over to say like a LinkedIn and you can pick up one of their tools or their tech, and
Yep.
then it'll say, here's how you get 1 million leads. What you do with them, Dave, I don't care. That's the marketers mentality.
Sure.
No offense. I'm a student of marketing. I'm a sales
Yep.
professional. Like that's my calling. So when
Sure.
we built flowchat, we said, hey, hold on, we want to build this as a sales tech that helps people from after that piece, step by step by step by step, until somebody says, here's a credit card, take my money. Because
Yeah.
that part, most people either have this like, oh my God, I'm fearful of doing it, or lazy, or whatever the thing is, like they just don't
Sure.
have that system in place. And so, like when we build flowchat, we say, look, we want it to be able to accommodate outbound. We also want it to be able to accommodate inbound. And then all the tools that exist currently, we're going to take all their feature sets and just put it on the front end of flowchat. So that's what flowchat is. And it works with 15 social medias, not just one or two or the metas or whatever, right? And so,
Sure.
and it's actually fundamentally structured and built differently with tech. The most important thing is privacy and protection first, right? So, helping over 5,000 people with this software product, I can be one of the only ones I know of that can say very, very securely, like, in helping over 5,000 people, we've never had anyone permanently get one of their social accounts restricted, right?
Gotcha.
And I think all the other companies can't say that. I don't know for sure,
Sure.
but I would
Sure.
guess.
Yeah,
So,
no, absolutely. So, I mean, I think whether you're on the outbound side or the inbound side or a combination of both, obviously this flowchat.com process is something to look into.
Mhm.
Before we go deeper into it, I kind of want to take a step back. People listening right now, Sean, love to hear the story of
Yeah.
your journey because I know that you weren't always in corporate America.
Mm-mm.
And people listening, there's a bunch of people right now that want to know how in the world did you transition from, being in corporate to owning your own business? Because let's face it, a lot of people listening right now, that's what they want, but they
Mm.
don't know how to do it. They don't know exactly what that is. So whenever we can, we share that story with the caveat that there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just because Sean did it his way doesn't mean that we have to do it that way. So kind of share with us, if you could. Number one, did you always know you were going to eventually own your own company? And number two, kind of what did that look like along your journey for you?
Great question. Feel free to interrupt because I'll try to drop a bunch of like nuggets that are helpful. So I think like
Awesome.
anyone thinking about this, there's a couple of pieces from the framework perspective that we need to remember. Number one, you need a catalyst. The catalyst could be I hate my boss, I hate my job. The catalyst
Sure.
could be mine was I didn't want to be a slave to a business and I wanted to experience everything together with my fiance, or at the time my girlfriend, fiance, now wife of 11 years. How do we do something, design our lifestyle to do our life, right? Because most people take a job and they sacrifice personal for the job.
Okay.
I was like, I want to buck the system and I'd rather design the lifestyle I want and then figure out what business model fits into it. And I think like wherever you're at, you can just take 10 minutes or 20 minutes and do a brain exercise where you go through and say, man, what would my perfect dream day look like? And what's the business that fits in there? How much time am I doing that business? And so we started spending from Frank Kern. He's a buddy of mine. I like talking about this a long time ago. I watched a video from him like 15 years ago and he's like, do this exercise. And so that's really what we started doing. And we said,
Sure.
oh my gosh, like we can design something. And so you need a catalyst. That's number one. Number two, you need kind of a method or a skill set that can get you there. And then number three, you got to have some passion. So like a lot of people come to me. Okay, so my story, let's go there first. I came out of college, Dave, and I had one question. How do I make a boatload of money? It's what I wanted to do. And so I was like, okay, who's made a boatload of money in my world? And I thought the only
Yeah.
person I really knew at the time was my dad. He was an entrepreneur. I grew up watching him work. So I learned like hard work ethic and some other really good
Sure.
values from him. And I went to him one day and I said, hey, how do I make a boatload of cash? And he said, Sean, you have three choices. I like choices, Dave. What are they? Number one, are you a CEO? I'm 21, coming out of college, 22. No, dad, I don't even know what those letters mean. Like, that's not me. Are you an entertainer, Sean? I can't sing or dance. No. Three, you better go learn sales. That was my
Sure.
instructions. He's like, you want to make a boatload of cash? Go learn sales. Like that was it. So I was like, okay. So I found this job selling commodities and I really sucked at it. I was really bad, probably worse than anyone listening to this right now. Like it's a learned thing. It doesn't just happen. You don't just naturally have the gift of gab.
Sure.
For the first 6 weeks, I made 2,400 cold calls, 80 a day
Wow.
for 6 weeks, and I never booked an appointment.
Wow.
Whoa. Right. I was
That's a
about
lot of
ready
work.
to, yeah, I was about ready to throw the white flag and say, screw this. Like, I'm out. And my dad
Yeah.
says, don't quit. Go get a book go read a book at the library.
Yeah.
I was like, thanks for the encouragement, Dad. Okay, cool. So I go to the library. I'm wandering through I see the Tom Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling Stuff book. I was like, whoa. And I opened it and started reading through it. And I was like, oh my God, there's formulas. And I was actually like, pretty good at formulas back in school. Like, I
Sure.
could probably try and apply and see if this works. So I was excited. I come back on Monday. I start trying and applying, and I get to the place where I'm supposed to deliver the little line that I've tried to memorize. Of course, I freeze. The hair stands up on my neck. The sweat beads are coming down. I'm in my office, like like pit sweat. Like, and
Yeah.
uh, and I messed it up the first couple of times, right? But then like the second or the third time, the guy on the other end says, Sean, I know what you're trying to do. Come on over Tuesday at 9 a.m. And I was like, like I was jumping in my office, jumping up and down, like I was so excited.
Sure.
And but I had to keep it cool. I was like, yeah, I'll see you on Tuesday, right? And I hang up the
Sure.
phone, and this was before the like basically the internet just started. My boss comes around, his name was Tim, and he goes, Sean, what happened? Did you just close a deal? Because it's been like 6 weeks. And I'm like, no, I just booked my first appointment. And he was like, "Oh, get that, like get out of here, right?" And
Oh
so,
no.
but that moment in time really like fueled me because what I realized was I really sucked at something, and then I learned something, and then I was able to like do something with it, and I was like, "Oh, that's great." So, I thought to myself at that moment, like my vocation is now to help other people do that same, like make that bridge, right? Because if you can just make that one, you get one, you can get 10, you get 10, you can get 1,000, and so on and so forth, right? That's the idea. And so I was like, man, I want to help other people have that feeling because it was just an energizing feeling. And so from that moment till now, my vocation is communication through the lens of high ticket sales and the lost art of prospecting.
Sure.
So I take these systems and I move into this job where I'm selling corporate world, right? And then I started locking up crazy amounts of deals because I learned all these patterns. I started investing all my money to learn all the selling systems that were out there.
Sure.
And I ended up spending $500,000. I went through 40 different sales systems and I
Wow.
really became a true, what I'd call an expert in sales from the standpoint of longest duration with highest closing percentage. Cause I always like wanted to figure out how do you compare your sales abilities against all the other salespeople? Because I'm a competitive person. And I thought duration of time, average close rate. So my average close rate over the last 5 years is 52.4%. It's in the top, right? Like I don't know very many other people that are up there. There's some that are better, right?
Sure.
And so like that point, like I just invested all that time to get really good at that skill. And then from there, I was like, okay, cool. So I grew this company really quickly. And here's what was happening. I watched these guys that were younger than me go get all this money from the bank and start this business. And they were living the lavish lifestyle. And here I am as a sales professional, like 75,000 miles a year in a truck. I'm like, that sucks. Like, I want that lifestyle. Right.
Yeah.
And so, how do I do that? And I needed to break free. And at the time, since I was driving so much, my wife was like, yeah, how do we do this together? And so, like, that was my kind of major catalyst that turned into.
Sure.
So like, okay, cool. So I use the sales skills, generate a lot of money, ended up making a ton, and I bought an electronics manufacturing company. I'm like, I'm just doing it, right? Like I ripped the band-aid off. I figured a company that I want to invest in, and I went for it. I was 24. Don't know
Wow.
much at 24, right?
Yeah.
But I ended up buying an electronics manufacturing company. And so we made circuit boards, like what's in the middle of your cell phone, but we
Sure.
sold them to government companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and Boeing and those guys.
Okay.
And so we were doing like what we call high mix, low volume. So it was like quantities of prototype runs, but we made some really cool stuff. For example, cryogenic laser guidance systems for Raytheon tanks. Like I built all the electronics for that stuff. Like it was so cool, right?
Sure.
And this is where I had to get even more deep into the weeds of like technical sales. So I just stayed the craft. That was my point, right? Stick in the craft, whatever craft it is. Like for me, it's
Yep.
communication, right? Sticking in the craft, continuing to learn these lessons. I was like, what system sells great to Raytheon and Boeing and TRW Lucas and all these other guys? Well, it happened to be Sandler selling, right? So I went down the path of that really, really deeply. And in fact, I ended up selling some of that for a long while, right? Just so I could be in the mix. But
Sure.
long story short, I took that company, and that was my first company that was really kind of like stepped from employee into owner. And I was like, oh, I'll just work. Yeah, right. Work 40 hours a week. No, no, no. You give up the 40 hours to work 80 for yourself. That's, I don't know, that's an entrepreneur's symptom. But that was really my
Sure.
main thing. Like your question was like, how did I bridge out of that? And then I started this electronics company, took my same sales abilities, grew it for about 4 years, got it to 8.5 million a year from 250K a year. So pretty substantial, multiple seven-figure growth, almost eight figures.
Yeah.
And then my business partner sold it out from underneath me because I
Hmm.
was a minority owner.
Sure.
And then
Wow.
we went into the next thing. That put me in a dark space. And I'm like, okay, now I'm this entrepreneur. Like, I can't go back to the 9 to 5. That's the dark side, like X, never going back kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so then I had to reinvent myself. And I started a little rep group because that's what I was doing the first thing. That failed. And then I tried this other thing and then that failed. Then I found multi-level marketing and like a bunch of those things failed. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll just put my resume out and see what happens. And I got a job selling roofing material, right? You've been in
Yeah.
that space, right?
Yep.
So the roofing journey for me was 3 years. I took my selling systems, I broke all the sales records at this company, and I realized with respect to roofers, they're not my people because all the people installing them usually would try to cut corners, steal, lie a little bit. A little more ethics for me. So I was like, I'm not
Sure.
in that industry. It's not my thing. Then my wife was like, how can we do this online? And that was 2016 that took us into the online space. I'll stop there because I'm sure there's some
Yeah.
things that
No, that's awesome. Well, the three words again that I wrote down for you that you mentioned were catalyst, method, and passion. So, for somebody listening right now, we usually have some catalyst, something we want to aspire to, something we want to get away from. It doesn't really matter what that catalyst is. But then also you mentioned method. And that's where I think, we struggle because we don't want, as entrepreneurs, business owners, we don't want to ask somebody else. We don't want to surround ourselves with, some type of accountability group, a roundtable group, something like that, a coach, whatever, to really help us with those methods. We just make the assumption that, I put my shingle up and then there's a line of 25 to 500 people waiting for us to open our store, and nothing could be further from the truth. And that's where I think then the passion comes in, because we got to find something that we truly enjoy. Otherwise, it really does get old pretty quick, right? So I love that piece for you that, you tried it and you failed at it, because let's face it, most people, when they're starting their first business, they're not thinking failure. They're thinking, monster success. And if it doesn't do that, then they're like, flabbergasted that something didn't work. I don't know what the research is, but I'm guessing a lot of companies in the first 5 to 10 years fail, because for whatever reason they aren't run right. One of those three things: the catalyst, the method, or the passion. So
yeah.
I'm just curious for you now with flowchat.com. Catalyst, method, and passion still are pretty prevalent, I'm guessing,
I mean,
in your
I'll
day.
always help people communicate better, whether it be business to business owners or it be just, me and my wife or friends, family. Like, I mean, I've learned that skill of communication deeply through the lens of
Sure.
sales, right? But that lens can be removed and you can use a lot of the tools and tactics and strategies to help other people better. So I'll never leave the idea of communication ever in my life. It just happens to be funneled through something that's very specific, a software product right now,
Sure.
which is great. And I'm really happy with it. I think this is going to be by far our biggest windfall company that we've built. And what you said was so interesting a second ago. It's like people start these businesses and then they don't make it. Their perception of being a business owner is completely warped because
Right.
the general public finds these shooting stars that hit it out of the atmosphere in the first 5 months. Oh, I did 100 million. What, like in the first
Right.
like year, like, and you see these stories and like there's so much more to those stories than what they show you
Sure.
on the news. And so people get these warped perceptions of like, oh, I'm just going to go build this little widget and it's going to explode,
Sure.
like that never happens. And so
Yeah.
I actually learned that the hard way. When I was in school, here's a great lesson, right? So I was in school, I was always taught this idea of like build the widget, sell the widget. I was like, okay, that's the formula. That's what old school industrial world
Sure.
says to do,
Yep. Yep.
right? Now you have with the digital age the ability to reach and connect so many people so fast, you don't have to do it that way anymore. And so the big learning lesson that I had after I moved out of electronics, out of roofing into these other things,
Sure.
and I started building stuff, it was like, hold on, before I build anything, I'm just going to go like, who do I want to hang out with? Who do I
Yeah.
want my clients to be first and foremost? Let's make a list of the cool people that I like to hang out with. Okay,
Sure.
cool. What problems do those people have? And I start going reverse engineer here. Oh, they have this problem. Oh, okay, that's cool. Could I solve that with my skill set? Yes, no, maybe so. Yeah, I
Yep.
probably could. Okay, before I do anything, let's go test. So I'd line up a couple of conversations and I'd be like, hey, are you struggling in the area? This is how I built my sales agency, right? Because I was
Yeah.
down and out. It was after we sold my first software company, after I'd been like completely burned out, almost killed myself. Deep story there. My coach, Russell Brunson, says, I said, what should we do now? Because we just sold our first software company. He goes, what are you good at? And I said, sales. And he said, all these online entrepreneurs, the people that I wanted to hang out with, they struggle with sales. And I'm
Sure.
like, what? For real? I don't believe you, Russell, but you're like obviously one of the best marketers in the world. I'll go check myself. I made a list of 50. So this is it. If you want to start something, listen close. I made a list of the 50 people that I would have loved to have as clients. I
Yeah.
used direct messages to find, connect, and close those people. I connected with them through social media, asked all 50 of them in a very cordial way, Do you struggle with sales? Every one of them said yes. Hey, let's have a call. I want to do some marketing research. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Great. Boom, link, call booked. 42 out of 50. Okay. 42 out of 50 calls, conversations go down the end. By the end, five of those people said, Sean, we're not hanging up the phone until we put an agreement together because I now believe you can fix my sales problem. And
Wow.
that was the birth of my high ticket sales agency, of which we helped people hire, onboard, and train sales teams,
Sure.
which led into the next thing.
Yeah, that's so cool. I tell you what, that's where you took a concept and turned it into reality. And that's what I think is unique as we're going to take a break here real quick, but I think what's interesting is there's probably a lot of people listening right now that have the idea, but they never engage it and they never take it to the next step. So that's where I want to encourage you. I don't know what that next step looks like. Like Sean said, maybe it's, find 50 people and interview them. I know for myself, a guy told me before I wrote my book, he said you'll never write a book without having at least five people in your phone address book that are authors. And I looked and I only had one, him. So I had to go find four. And there was I don't know if there's something magic about five, but when I hit that fifth one, boy, I tell you what, that book came out of me and went on to the Amazon #1 best-selling list. So, it was so cool because you end up with surrounding yourself with good people, whether it's 50 people you want to sell to, five people that have done what it is that you do, doesn't matter. But I think that's really, really a great spot to start is just go. And it's pretty low. Let's face it, you're not investing a ton of dollars, you're not investing a ton of time. Yes, you're investing some energy in getting these 50 people, but they're going to tell you, for like we said before, we have a house in San Diego. I could have the absolute best business plan, the best product, but I guarantee you, if I had a snowmobile and snow ski company and I was selling in San Diego, it wouldn't work. It just doesn't work. So there's a lot more to it than just having the right product and the right people. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I really want to unpack how to help people listening right now keep up because that was the question that we talked about at the beginning of the comments. So we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Honored to be hanging out with Sean Malone, co-founder at flowchat.com and based in Colorado. And we're taping at a time of year where snow is on its way. So I hope that it works out well for you. Hopefully, you find somewhere warm if that's what you like. But I guess I wanna understand. So for somebody that we piqued their interest at the beginning, that they're raising their hand and they're saying, yes, I don't know how to keep up. I have more, whether it's more leads, more contacts, more connections. I don't know everybody's, little idiosyncrasies that they have, but I'm just going to stay broad and say, hey, Sean, I can't keep up. What do I do?
Yeah, so great question. So the first thing that I would share is like you got to understand the method that you're using. So if we're going to go deep into like finding, connecting and closing deals, we have to look at how do we find people, right? And so right now you have a couple of methods. There's four main ones. So you got phone calls. You can pick up and bang some cold calls. That's cool. That's a method. The percentage of that actually being effective is really, really low to the point where
Okay.
it scares away probably 99% of people. Second
Sure.
one is a SMS marketing. You've seen it. The problem with SMS marketing that we run into these days is the A2P, the canned spam, all these things that have all these regulations and everything else on that. So when you get one of those messages, even if it's like blue in on your iPhone or whatever, it's still like you don't have a big good way to like learn enough to understand if this is something that's going to be important for you. So SMSs have one of the highest open rates, which I'm grateful for. It's low 90 percentage in that area. But the click through rates to going to links and other things like that is actually fairly low. It's sub 10. And so for us, like SMSs wasn't the best method. So now you've got email is the next one. So email is awesome. But the problem is you got to email a ton of people. I went through a stint of 6 months of emailing 10,000 people a day, like not a small amount, like a lot of people.
Wow.
And the hit rate or the buy rate on the back end of that was like 1% to 2%. The worst
Okay.
thing about emails, you still have some of these regulations that are kicking out everywhere, all over the place. But the worst part about this is this idea of like Apple a couple of years ago launched this thing called MPP, which is the mail privacy protection thing. And
Okay.
so it gave your autoresponder, the thing you're sending your emails from, it gives them false open rates. So you can't like even dictate what your true open rates are. So the numbers are a little bit questionable. That leaves belly to belly, which is kind of old school and that'll never go away. But then you also have direct messages on social media. Why social media is better, in my opinion, in fact, the best of all of the methods that we've just talked about. A couple of reasons. Speed, right? Speed to lead on social media, you can get to someone faster than anywhere else. Okay. And anyone, you can connect with practically anyone, right? Number two, we have this ability, like if we're using social media to do some prospecting or finding people to connect with them, then what happens is you can send a message to somebody or you can receive a prospecting message. Most people, if we're texting, we can't go look deeper. Social, we can. We can click on their profile and we can creep on them and see, are they really a good person or do they not? Social media is the only people that have kind of like that second layer. So this is
Okay.
a big favor for why social media makes some sense. To answer your question, if I can't keep up, I need to choose my method. We just went through them. And then
Yep.
we need to choose the system that we use to do the tracking and everything else. And we should design that before we even start.
Okay. So I'm just curious, because you listed these. First of all, what does SMS stand for?
Oh, text messaging. Sorry, SMS, text
Okay.
messaging. Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha. Perfect. Okay. Just wanted
sorry
to
about
make
that.
sure I was. No, that's okay. So, do you suggest for somebody listening that wants to find and connect and close, do you suggest more than one way? Or, I mean, can we do some phone calls? Can we do some in person? Can we do some email? Is there a healthy mix, or do you really just suggest that you're focusing with your direct on social media? Where do you
Yeah,
land on
so
that?
great, right? Because there's a plethora of choices. I believe the world is overwhelmed with too much opportunity. This is one of those things I'm talking about. So where do I go? Where do I start? Can I just do all of them? Why aren't I doing more than one? Like, what should I do? Here's the deal. It's there's a book that Dan Sullivan wrote called 10x is easier than 2x, and the concept of this book is to say or eliminate 80% of the stuff that's not working and
Okay.
pour into the 20% that does work to get you the biggest results. And so if I was looking at starting a new business, I would think through all those methods that I just mentioned. And I would think to
Sure.
myself, okay, based on statistical performance of every industry on the planet, social media has the second highest open rates, the highest click through rates, and the highest buy rates. So if I'm a betting guy, that's probably where I would start. And so
Okay.
now we're like, okay, let's say we chose social media because of the data. And now we say, which platform works for me? Because there's like a billion of them, right? You've got Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and X and TikTok and Telegram, Discord, Slack, Pinterest, school, like you keep going. So then you think, which one do I know the best? Depending on your age, depending on your niche,
Sure.
depending on like your flavor for whatever, any one of them, right? This is why flow chat is universal across all of them because the amount of prospects you want are on the platform that you probably already play on and you know all the buttons. Better
Sure.
yet, you already know how to text people because you've been doing it for your whole life.
Yeah.
So text is another version of DM. So that makes it simple. You don't have to learn all these other things. This is why I say, like, if you want to start a business today, DMs. You can ask all the great, like Daniel Priestley's one of the biggest macroeconomic marketing guys that turned marketer. And he, to this day, when he tests a new method, he DMs 3,000 people, does calls, does the research, and says, okay, this is a valid product. Now I'm going to put all my resources and go shoot it to the moon. That's when those like shooting stars actually happen, right?
Sure.
When you do the
Yeah.
research. And so,
Gotcha.
like, so what I say, and then like even when I met with Russell Brunson the very first time, I asked him the same question. Russell, there's all these social media platforms. Which one do I start with? He said, choose one, go make a million, then duplicate it, then duplicate it, then duplicate it. So that's what I did. And it worked.
Wow. Well, and so I have to kind of have you help me with something because I don't know about you, Sean, but I get these calls or not calls, but I get LinkedIn messages every single
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
that are like just cold as cold can be. Hey, I saw your profile and I have a great idea on how to solve your issue, or you can work 10 minutes a day and make $1 million an hour. There's all these crazy claims. I even still get things, like you said before, early in my career, before I started my own company, I was in the roofing industry, and I still get to this day LinkedIn messages that says, "Hey, I see you're in the roofing space.
Yeah.
I want to help you grow your roofing business." And it's just like, oh my gosh. I mean, they obviously must have just Googled roofing, or they must have whatever, they searched roofing in LinkedIn, and mine showed up from 30 some years ago. I mean,
Well,
how do
wait,
we,
hold on. I just want to be very clear on that because
yeah,
there's new trend that's happening. And everyone's like, I'm going to use AI to write my messages. So now there's
okay,
these tools out there that can go say, look at your profile and see that you're in the roofing world. Hey, I'm looking for people in the roofing world. And AI will send those messages because it has no filters and because
okay,
it's not controlled correctly. So it's only going to continue for you.
sure,
What you
okay,
said is totally true, right? We call it pitch slapping. People that come at you in the first message are like, hey, buy my stuff, right?
right,
And then they just slap you with it, right? That never works.
right. Well,
All
what's
these,
the difference between that and what you're talking about here?
yeah.
Because I think a lot of people are looking for the next opportunity, the next, slick way to connect with people, but yet there's so many that aren't working. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where, like, how do we know where to go with this?
Yeah, totally. So that's actually why I wrote this book. Okay, so this book here that I wrote, it's called DM Me, Create Life-Changing Conversations That Sell. And it's the rules of DM copywriting, right? Because you said, how do I stand apart from all these other people that are cold DMing and doing other things? Well, the secret is you can't be like them. You have to be absolutely different than how they do things. Most people would say, here's the first three rules of DM copywriting. You remember these, you'll be amazed at how well this works. Okay. Rule number one, do not use their first name in the first 5 words of any DM you ever send. Instead, put the first name at the end of the first sentence after a comma. Why?
Hmm,
Why, Sean? Well, if Dave opens up his unread inbox in LinkedIn, what does he see? He sees a 10,000 of those messages that say, hey, Dave, hey, Dave, hi, Dave, yo, Dave, what's up, Dave,
yeah,
Dave, 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 Dave. Everybody always puts the first name first. So if you want to stand out, don't do that. Put it at the
okay,
end. So then it's like you're positive. And again, okay, so that's the first rule of DM copywriting. The framework of copyright, the framework of DMs, every DM conversation on earth, no matter what it is, if it's a selling DM conversation, goes through 4 steps, 4 phases, I call them the hinge points. The first one is engagement. Got to get engagement. Second one is once we got engagement, we got to transition them from, hey, how's it going, to business conversation. Third one, we got to invite them to do something. We send a signal, we don't try to sell, right? So we invite them to say yes to something, book a call, go to a webinar, whatever. And then the last step is what we call the clear future, which is the exact next step that comes next.
sure,
That's and by the way, I've been in 1.3 million DM convos, just more than anyone I've ever met. And going through all that data, those pieces of framework emerge, plus these 4 DM conversational flows that are the most profitable in the last 25 years. And I know them, right? And so, like, this idea of what we do is we start with a compliment. That's the best thing you can ever start a DM with. You start with a compliment, don't put their name in the first 5 words. So it's like, the positive polarity podcast kicks ass, comma, Dave. That would be my opening line to you because it's
okay,
personal, relevant, visual. You can see what it's about, and you're going to probably open that and then
okay,
read the next line and see what the next line says.
sure,
I like to use a little NLP in the first message when I say, like you, I'm crazy busy, but I want to keep talking. I'll be back tomorrow to keep it up. In the meantime, you keep up the great work.
sure,
So now I've said what I was going to do. You're thinking, is he really going to do what he said? And I come back the next day because I have a system. I'm like,
Fair.
Dave, I'm back.
Yeah.
Zing a question at you. Now I've
Sure.
started the transition. That's
Gotcha.
totally different than anything that anyone would ever teach you. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, because most of the people, it's a one and done. If you don't, I want to help you grow your roofing business. And it's like, at that point, I'm done.
Yep.
Even if they say I want to help grow your coaching business, it's just so awkward. It's such a huge assumption that I don't know what I'm doing. It's such a, I mean, and it kind of feels a little degrading because, like they're up here and I'm down here. So
Yeah.
I think the tone is probably really more important than people think of these DMs and what type of communication, like you mentioned before, what are you bringing across to them? Because that is, and I'm one guy. So I don't hold any weight to this other than it's just me thinking when someone says, I really want to help you, that's making a huge assumption that I need help. I never asked for it. I never reached out for it. I never said I needed it. So it's just kind of making an assumption, I think, is probably a bad spot. And so I'm assuming. So your first one is don't use the name at the beginning of the sentence, use it at the end. You had two more. What was next?
Yeah. So the second rule of DM copywriting is to end every DM you send with a question,
Hmm.
particularly a question that you and they already know the answer to, because it
Okay.
makes it easy for them to keep the conversation going. That's the rapport part.
Okay.
Okay. And then the third one is more of a mirror and match kind of opportunity. If somebody writes you one word, do not write them a book. If
Yeah.
somebody writes a chapter to you, don't write them a one word response.
Sure.
Match how much they write in the chat, right? This is how you truly can connect with people. That's why the first part of my selling system is actually bond and connect. It's more
Yeah.
psychological than anything else. Because when you start matching the way that somebody writes, this person says, oh, this person's just like me. They speak in my filter. Like this should be an easy conversation because
Right.
that's the experience we want to give to our person that we're selling to. Most people
Fair.
get it wrong and they say, I just want a million leads and I want to slam a whole bunch of people with this generic, stupid message that never works. And I'm going to fight for those 3% that are going to say yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Everybody does that. Never
Well,
works.
I think in communication in general, we do a ton of work with personality profile disc. And the big message for disc is to match your communication style with the person that you're connecting with. And it's just like you said, you probably know somebody at work that just, you ask them what they did this weekend and they'll give you a 90-second version of Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning. They'll just go through the whole thing. And then they ask you and they say, Sean, what'd you do? And you go, nothing. And there's a disconnect because they're sharing with you to kind of make a connection. And if you don't catch that, conversely, if somebody's a one word person, like you said, there's a lot of, D personalities that are just results oriented. They got to go, they got one word for you. And whatever that word is, you got to work with, but you're expecting a whole paragraph, like you said. So I love the mirror and matching. So, how those are really three powerful pieces of education, hopefully, that you picked up on, the listener today, is don't use the first name at the beginning, use it at the end of the sentence. The second one is end with a question that you both know the answer to, which I think is really powerful for a lot of different reasons. And then the third one is to mirror and match. And I think that those three things, if you put those into play right away today. Those are three pretty simple things that you can do, whether it's in an email, whatever connecting you're doing on the phone, in person, whatever. I think those are three really great pieces. So thank you. Thanks for sharing that. As we start to land the plane today, I could sit and talk to you all day about this. But I want to know, first of all, like, tell me about your book. So it's called DM Me,
Yeah.
and DM is direct message, just for
Yep.
those that are unfamiliar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So fill us in on why would I want to pick up that book? What's in there that's going to change my life?
So first and foremost, if you can't keep up, back to the original thing. This is a system that allows you to keep up,
Okay.
right? So you can get all of the framework you need understand conceptually how it's going to work, take what's in the book and apply it. It's evergreen, designed and built that way, written
Sure.
so that pretty much anyone can understand it. It's a very easy read. You'll come away with practical and tactical. People are saying it's kind of like their new weapon for social media, which is pretty amazing, and I'm grateful for it because I just feel like the if you need to communicate better and you do, because deep down most people do know that they need to change something, they need to tweak it or create a new catalyst, or like this book will help get there, right?
Yeah.
It'll just it's a book really designed around communication through the lens of selling on social media specifically. And so if that's what you're trying to do, this book is tooled to do that for you. It'll give you the systems. I have pictures of actual scripts that have made us millions of dollars. There's scripts in there from our clients. Last year alone, we helped them do more than like 20 million bucks.
Wow.
So like there's snapshots and phrases and questions and all the stuff that you'd need to be able to just take that book and apply. Like people leave it on their desk. They're like, this is the Bible of how I do stuff now, like, which is really cool to
Yeah.
see. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's so cool. So grab a copy. Is it where would be the best place to get a copy of that, Sean?
Yeah. So below there'll be a link where you can go grab a copy right off Amazon. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
And then there'll be a couple of other things that I'll send over for you for resources if people want to just learn a little bit more. So
Sure. Awesome. That's so cool. So, what would your tip of the day be for somebody listening? Maybe it's something that we covered, maybe it's something that we haven't covered, but what would your tip of the day be for an entrepreneur or sales professional listening today?
So since I mean, there's tons of sales. I am a sales professional at heart. I always will be. That is my calling, my passion, and that's what I really truly love. So a lot of people have asked me for a lot of years now. I've trained over 8,000 sales professionals, so I have some credibility there. And I
Sure.
got this question probably more than any other question. Sean, if I could do one thing better than anyone to be the best salesperson on earth, what would it be?
Mm,
And my answer, I didn't have an answer for a long, long, long time until I came up with what I feel is the right answer to that question. And there's not one thing, there's three. Okay.
okay.
So in my belief, to be the best salesperson on earth, in this planet, you have to have number one, overwhelming conviction. You have to have conviction. Conviction means you would buy your own stuff
Mm,
and you would go to the tallest mountain and you'd scream as until you became exhausted and keep screaming about the thing that you're selling. Okay. If you're not there yet, here's how you get
sure.
there.
Okay.
Take out a piece of paper. Here's my notes, right? Write down all the reasons why you're not convicted about the thing that you sell, and then convince yourself why those are dumb things. Or take them to a business partner and say, hey, or actually better yet, bring them to Dave. Say, Dave, tell me why all these reasons of what I sell are stupid. Why am I believing these? And then Dave can help you break down all the false beliefs that you may have. And guess what? That builds conviction. So now you're convicted. Okay. Second thing that you must have is consistency. Conviction's number one, consistency is number two. One of the reasons I do what I do is because Dave or me could say, I can teach you to be a world class sales professional in a weekend because we could, right? Without a doubt. The problem is you'll never become a world class sales professional unless you have reps at the plate,
Sure.
consistent practice. So, having
Sure.
consistency or a method to create consistency is number two. Okay. And then number three is persistence. Conviction, consistence, persistence. Know you're going to get punched in the face. Know you're going to get your face ripped off. People are going to yell at you. They're going to hate on you, but you just got to get up and keep going. It's like Les Brown says, if you get knocked down, but you can see up, you better get up,
Yeah.
right? Because no one's going
Wow.
to do it for you. And so
Sure.
those three things, if you put those into a person who's got like some fire in them, they're one of the best salespeople in the world. That's what I'd say.
Sure. That's awesome. Conviction, consistency, and persistence. Those are three powerful words. Each one could be a day talk on themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And we put those into one tip in 30 seconds. So thank you so much for doing that. So Sean, if somebody's listening right now and they are like really intrigued by what you're saying, maybe they want to do more than get a copy of your book. If they want to connect with you, what's the best way for people to do that?
Yeah, great. Thanks for asking. Again, I'm in the social game. So come find me on Facebook or come find me in LinkedIn or X or TikTok or Telegram and just hit me up with a DM, right? I have systems that run on all of them, even if you're in school, right? So just message me. It's either me or my team that'll be responding, again, systemized, right? Because
Sure.
when you get to a place where you can't cover all of the territory, you need team and
Yeah.
system to be able to help you because then you can keep up. That's what we talked about.
Sure. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah. So,
And it's Sean, Sean, last name Malone on any of those
yep.
things. Also,
Facebook and LinkedIn are probably going to be the fastest response for you.
okay.
And then, I mean, the other ones will you'll get responded within a day or so anyway. So yeah. So,
And there's a great explanation video at flowchat.com if you want to learn more about the system without necessarily talking to a human being. So again, there's plenty of people that just want to learn more before they make that connection. So Sean, thank you so much. This was awesome. The time flew by. Man, there's so much here. I got to say, if you are listening and you did not walk away or gain anything today, that's on you because Sean dumped a ton of great intel. I took 2 pages of notes and I'm
oh,
just like thinking it to myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, find, connect, and I'm still back on find, connect, and close. So I'm like, I'm processing this as we're talking through this. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, then there's ways to connect. And then there's catalyst, method, and passion. And then there's don't use name. Oh my gosh, I'm like, this is so cool. I'm going to have to listen to it again. So thank you again so much.
of course,
So
man.
if people want a copy of the book, jump on Amazon or reach out to Sean. It's a great resource for you if you're struggling to keep up. And again, if you want to just reach out to either one of us and just put I can't keep up, and we'll take it from there. We'll provide you some great information and on how to do that. But thanks again, Sean. I can't wait to see what's the next business that is after Flow Chat, because I'm sure once you have mastered that, then you're going to head on to your next one. So,
Yeah, actually this is the first of three books. It's going to be a
okay,
trilogy, so
nice.
I got to finish that before I can do anything else. So yeah, so
Oh, and now you put it out there, so now you got to do it. It's one thing
yeah.
when it's in your brain; it's totally different when it's put out there. So,
Yeah, no, I have a
awesome.
plan. I
Well,
have a plan. Yeah, so the next book will come out next year, and then the year after, and then we'll get to that part.
now
So
you'll be writing for a while. You keep yourself busy.
yeah,
So
no,
that's awesome. Well, thank you again, Sean, for all this information. And for people listening, if you still don't know how to keep up, I totally get it. We flew through a ton of intel here in a little bit of time. So reach out to Sean. Go to flowchat.com. Go to LinkedIn and find Sean Malone, and you will be able to hopefully in a short amount of time be able to say I do now know how to keep up, and a lot of it's going to be because of Flow Chat. So again, thank you so much, and can't wait to for the next 2 books to come out.
yeah. Thanks so much, Dave. I appreciate you.